Continuing on from yesterday's first reading, this is going to be the second reading of my mother's letter and her experiences. The Russian army arrived on April 22nd, 1945 and took over the management of the camp. They started organizing the return of the ex-prisoners to their respective homelands. The first group to Hungary left early May without me. Eva was in hospital, bedridden. I could not leave her. On her arrival in Budapest, one of the girls, a very good friend, her name was Heda Donat, put a notice in the daily listing the names of the girls left behind. Aggie and Polly, Aggie now is my mother's sister, younger sister, who by this time was home, contacted her, and this is how our families learned that we survived and are still in Sachsenhausen. They wrote, we wrote. For unknown reasons, no letter ever arrived to anybody. Eva and I had no idea whether our loved ones had survived. At the end of the summer, Sachsenhausen was evacuated and prepared for German war criminals. By that time, Eva was out of hospital. We were taken to different small DP, displaced person camps, I do not remember the names, and promised to be returned to Hungary. After many disappointments, finally, late October, from our last stop, Oranienburg, we began our trip back to Budapest. About 12 of us in a cattle car attached to a long train turning Hungarian prisoners of war. We crossed the German border early one morning and stopped in Bratislava, now the capital of Slovakia. It was around 7 in the morning when the door opened and a guy yelled, "Mrs. Lemberger, your husband wants to see you." And there he was. This was luck number 3, and really a miracle. And now your father's story. The two stories coincide. Just something I want to put in here, just to let you know what the relationship was between my mother and father. Even when my mother was in concentration camp, every Saturday for the protection and well-being of my father, who was in forced labor in the Hungarian army, she would fast, dry fast every Saturday. I mean, they weren't eating anyway, but still she was dry fasting every Saturday. Now my father's story. In the winter of 1944, Polly, my father, was as a forced laborer in the Hungarian army at the front in the Ukraine. As the Russian army advanced, the Hungarians retreated. Eventually they reached Sopron, which is the most western city of Hungary. Many of the Jewish laborers came down with typhoid fever, Polly included. They were dropped in camps, in villages near Sopron, Polly in Balf, and left to die. Many did. The healthy men were sent to Mauthausen, Austria, concentration camp. Polly recovered, and he was able to walk. He started the long trek to Budapest. That's about 200 miles. Farmers fed him. He slept in barns, stables, sometimes got a lift on carriages, and finally arrived to the outskirts of Budapest on April 9, 1945. At a train station, he was stopped by a Russian patrol busily loading the cattle car with Hungarian prisoners of war, destination a camp in the USSR. They needed a few more bodies, and they grabbed Polly, who escaped by the grace of the commandant, who happened to be Jewish, spoke German, and understood that Polly is not the enemy, but a victim, and so he let him go. He arrived in Budapest in rags, full of lice. He first went to a delousing station on Váci út, then went looking for his mother, your other grandmother, Margit, who survived in the ghetto at her apartment. He didn't find her. The apartment was bombed out, so she stayed at her sister's. A neighbor rang to get Aggie, my mother's sister, she lived nearby, who took him to his mother, where he could clean up and burn his rags. Aggie got from friends a pair of pants, she puts in brackets 2 short, a shirt and a jacket. Next day they bought a pair of shoes at the flea market, Telekiter. To his great sadness, he learned about the death of his father, your grandfather, Samu, who died in November 1944. His older sister, Lisa, with her 3 small children, survived in hiding, but her husband, Willie, never came home. He died somewhere, no one knew where. Eva and I were still missing. During the summer, he reopened the family business, which before the war was run by his Polly's uncle, Lajos, brother and mother, as sweet and gentle as Polly. He was a bachelor and lived with Polly's family. He too disappeared, traceless in one of the concentration camps. And that's the end of reading number 2. The last part will be tomorrow.